Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
Dominaria spoilers.
Yes.
Got a lot. Many.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a torrential downpour of spoilers given the Chinese leak. And, well, there's a few rules changes and stuff like that. There's also half the set has been spoiled. And as far as the rules changes go, I mean, so notably we know the mechanics from the next set now, but in terms of the rules changes, one of the most topical is the change to the Planeswalker redirection rule, so that, for instance, when there's 400, the redirection rules have been simplified so that instead of Lightning Bolt dealing 3 damage to a creature or player, Lightning Bolt now deals 3 damage to any target, which could be a creature, player, or planeswalker. And this would open up the space for them to be able to make cards in the future that could hit planeswalkers and creatures, but not players, or players. I mean, now, they've already sort of had that, but now there's ways to hit players without being able to hit creature or planeswalkers. And so, for instance, there's a new Lightning Bolt variant, Wizard's Lightning, that's 2 and a red for an instant. The spell Wizard's Lightning deals 3 damage to any target, and Wizard's Lightning costs 2 less to cast if you control a wizard. So this one's basically an Urza's Rage, and it is an instant, so it's like a 3 mana deal 3, but if you control a wizard, you get a Lightning Bolt.
Oh, so first of all, yeah, it's a great example of the new templating, right? So Wizard's Lightning deals 3 damage to any target. So in the past, if I were going to want to Lightning Bolt your Liliana, what I would do is I actually might just tap your Liliana with my Lightning Bolt or something, right, physically. But the actual thing you were supposed to do was to say that I Lightning Bolt you and then redirect the damage from you to the Liliana. Now we take the middleman out of it, right? So Wizard's Lightning has that deal 3 damage to any target, just directly hit the Liliana. But beyond that, it's actually a very interesting card, right? So at 2 and an R instant for 3 damage, there's actually already precedent for 3 casting cost cards to be played in Modern or Legacy burn decks. For example, Rift Bolt, right? So Rift Bolt is a lot like Wizard's Lightning, 1 mana some of the time, and it has a printed cost of 3 mana, which is actually advantageous. For example, when you're playing against Chalice of the Void, right? So that's cool. But the other thing that's cool about this card is there's actually wizards that you play, right? So in a mono-red deck, you might already be playing Grim Lavamancer. Grim Lavamancer is a wizard.
Yeah, you're talking about in Modern? Yeah, There's a heck of a lot of good wizards in Modern.
Or Legacy.
I mean, obviously, yeah, for sure. I mean, Snapcaster Mage and Vendilion Click, Dark Confidant. There's a lot of all-time greats in the wizard camp.
Yep, so that seems like really, I'm not sure that it's going to see play, but it seems like it could see. I would certainly, personally, I'd rather have Wizard's Lightning on my bench than Shard Volley, right? Just put it out there.
And there's some interesting if you're looking for the cheap ones, obviously Grim Lavamancer we already spoke on, but Kosi's Trickster, Cursecatcher, there's actually lots of merfolk that are also wizards. Well, and merfolk wizards actually works real interesting with one of the other wizard enablers in this set, the cancel that becomes a counterspell, Wizard's Retort, which is 1 blue, this counter-target spell, and Wizard's Retort plus 1 less if you control a wizard.
That seems like a cool spell. Like, there's folks like yourself who you just cancel sometimes. You like canceling, and there's all kinds of variants of 3 casting cost counter-target spell, hard counters that have seen play, everything from Dissipate to Dissolve. Those cards have been pretty good. But me personally, I love that Silumgar Scorn, the ability to get a hard counter for you sometimes if you were on the same team with the right creature. So I'm actually pretty excited to try Wizard's Retort, possibly with Snapcaster Mage in play.
Well, what about Delver of Secrets, man? That's a one. Yeah, no, that's a one. That's a wizard. That's that's a nice little 1-2 punch, right? Like if you open with something like Delver of Secrets, being able to follow it up, you can get a pretty elite curve of wizards And there's a part of me that wonders if you end up. I mean, I don't know if it'll really come to this because Unclaimed Territory and Cavern of Souls, they're not the bestest buddies with Wizard's Retort. But I wonder if we might see some many color, like 5-color mono blue or something, or 5-color blue red, where it's like a Wizard's deck. And it's only 1 or 2 colors of spells, but it splashes wizards of whatever colors. Like maybe a Dark Confidant here or there or whatever.
Wow.
Meddling Mage, something.
That Delver of Secrets comment is awesome. I don't know if you remember, but in Standard, first turn Delver flipping over Mana Leak on the second turn, that was like the fix in Standard. And Mana Leak is just typically not played in Modern. It's like not strong enough in Delver decks, or I don't know, strong, consistent, whatever you want to say about it. But I do think maybe hard counterspell, especially on turn 2, enabling that flip and having something with this level of oomph, especially if you're going to have another 4 Snapcaster mages, right? Like those guys run in packs together. I think that's enough to make this card pretty good.
What about Jace Vryn's Prodigy? That's another nice one, right?
Oh, well, Jace Vryn's Prodigy is in fact a nice one. I'm actually a little surprised that card doesn't see more play.
Yeah. And who knows? At the moment, we're only really seeing it as an occasional sideboard card and then as a niche option for Goryo's Vengeance decks. But if Wizard Tribal really is on the rise, Jace, he's not going to hate being able to, having counterspells and lightning bolts to go alongside him. A couple cards that people don't usually think of them as their tribal types, but that are wizards. Magus of the Moon. That's an interesting one. And then Master of Etherium. Master of Etherium.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that kind of gets you thinking, right? Like, you're like, wait a minute, how close are we? Obviously there's... Oh, go ahead.
Hey, guys. When was the last time you went to the doctor? I can tell you the last time I went to the doctor was... I don't know when. I mean, sometimes I get the sniffles. I have, in fact, lost one of my senses before. And boom! I'm in the urgent care clinic. But that's not really a medical strategy. Be smarter than me. Before you lose something important, like, say, your hair. So if you're already going to the doctor, by all means, keep going to the doctor. But if you're as dumb as I am, and by dumb, I mean overscheduled or otherwise busy, now there's forhims.com. Forhims.com is a one-stop shop with real doctors focused on wellness for men. Get it? For Hims? There are no snake oil pills or gas station supplements at forhims.com. We are talking about real prescription solutions backed by science. No waiting room, no awkward visits. You can save hours just by going to forhims.com. Answer a few quick questions and a doctor will review and prescribe you. Products are shipped directly to your door. Remember what I said about losing your hair? Did you know that 66% of men start losing theirs before the age of 35? Now there is forhims.com. You don't need to turn to some weird solution, or worse yet, no solution at all. Instead, and I can't believe this, there is a special promotion just for our listeners. Go to forhims.com/top-level and get their complete hair kit for just $5. The complete hair kit would cost hundreds of dollars in a traditional doctor's office or pharmacy. But for our listeners, just $5. Go to forhims.com/top-level. That's FORHIMS.com/top-level to get the complete package for just $5.
I mean, you were in R&D. When you were in R&D, is that something that you would have tried to bury in a card like Master of Etherium, which is so, like, it's so obviously in a different strategy. So adding something like that to a card like that, where it might come up years and years later, is that something that you deliberately bury, or is it more of a flavor thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, reasons are weird, but like both is okay. I mean, I think that in this case, it's both. Like, it's at least a flavor thing, and it's possible that somebody wanted to be. I mean, it's been known for a very, very, very long time that Wizards is a tribe that will age well in vintage formats and legacy and modern, formats that are old, because of how much there is a desire to have iconic characters represented with Wizards from time to time. And when you're going to have your push Snapcaster Mage, your push Jace Vryn's Prodigy, your pushed Dark Confidant, if you're going to keep pushing Wizards, once every other year, once a year, you're going to end up in a spot where you can just play with nothing but platinum hits and have Wizard Tribal.
Fair enough.
But it's not just Wizard Tribal that's in effect with Dominaria. Dominaria would appear to be a very, very heavy legend sort of centric bunch of mechanics. Like, obviously, there's a bunch of legends, legendary creatures, legendary enchantments, even legendary auras. But there's a new twist. There are some legendary sorceries, like, for instance, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Like, exile all... So, first of all, just to clarify on the way legendary sorceries work, a legendary sorcery can only be cast if you control a legendary creature or you have a planeswalker. So, Urza's Ruinous Blast is 4 and a white. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary.
So,
and you have to have at least one legendary creature or a planeswalker in order to play it. But for 5 mana, you get to sweep the board of non-legends. And go ahead.
Yeah. So the implications of this card are really, really interesting, right? Like, if you've got a planeswalker, or you've got a legendary creature, which presumably may be a powerful legendary creature, and your opponent doesn't. This is really, really strong, right? It leaves you with a powerful permanent while messing up all of their stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is destroying any cast-out type cards. This is destroying all opposing artifacts, enchantments, creatures. Now that every planeswalker has been errated to be a legend, this won't be destroying any opposing planeswalkers.
Any planeswalkers at all.
But you are going to be, taking out an awful lot of permanents with this thing. Another mechanic that has been revealed is the sagas. There are these sagas that are enchantments that when you play them, do their level 1 ability. And then after your draw step, you get the level 2 ability, and then after your next draw step after that, you get the level 3 ability, and you sacrifice the saga. So, for instance, Triumph of Gerard. So the way that Fabiano's saga works is that this one has the same 1 and 2 ability. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are the same, which is Chapter 1, so when you play it, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control with the greatest power. And then Chapter 2, which would be your first draw step after you've put this card down. Not just the first time you've drawn a card, but your actual first draw step. So usually the next turn, you get to put another +1/+1 counter on target creature you control with the greatest power. And then Chapter 3, which would be the following turn, target creature you control with the greatest power gains flying, first strike, and lifelink until end of turn.
These are really interesting cards, like, because they have like some material. Well, they have an immediate impact, right? And then they have like some material impact over the course of the next turn, but then they go away, right? It's like you're gonna explode them or something.
In many ways, it's kind of like flashback, but but instead of having to pay to get a second one, you get a second and a third automatically. They just keep coming. So, for instance, here's a different one. Fall of Thran. The way Fall of Thran works is it's 5 and a white. So when you play it, Chapter 1, destroy all lands. That's pretty intense.
It's only it's 2 more than an Armageddon, but then it has some more text, yeah?
Chapter 2, each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. And then Chapter 3, each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. So it's a little bit of a temporary Armageddon to some degree. Not all the land is going to come back, though. Like, people are only getting 4 of the land back. And what's notable is that you and your opponent are both getting your land back on your turn. So they're missing an entire turn of the mana each time.
Well, also, maybe if you have some sort of mechanism that prevents the opponent from having a graveyard, right? Like, some sort of ley line or something like that.
Great point.
It becomes extremely asymmetrical.
Right. Yeah, no, that is a great point.
So let me try this one on. So History of Benalia is also a saga, right? So this one costs 1 WW, and its first 2 chapters are both create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. That's not bad, right? Like a 2/2 white knight creature with vigilance, just the first one for 3, that's too much, right? But 2 for 3, that's not too bad. And then it's got this additional one where it buffs the creatures. It buffs the knights on the 3rd chapter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've already gotten a 2/2 and then another 2/2. So you've gotten 4 worth of stats with vigilance across 2 bodies. And then you get 1 kind of bursty attack on turn 4. I guess turn 5.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I think that card's pretty cool. So
yeah, extremely. And because the enchantments go to the graveyard after Chapter 3, if you have any sort of a way to recur them, you can get a little bit more, you can get your money's worth. If you have any kind of a creature that, for instance, when played, returns an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand, that would combine very well with stuff like with these various sagas.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of white cards, one of the highest profile white cards to be spoiled is the new Baneslayer Angel. Have you seen this one? It's
Lyra Dawnbringer?
Yeah, exactly. So Lyra Dawnbringer is 3 white for a 5/5 flying first strike lifelink, just like Baneslayer so far. And then instead of so Lyra Dawnbringer is a legendary creature as opposed to Baneslayer, which was not. And then instead of protection from demons and protection from dragons, Lyra Dawnbringer has other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink.
Wow. First of all,
the card is excellent.
If you don't have any other angels, the card's pretty good. The protection from demons and dragons did come up for Baneslayer Angel, but it didn't come up that much because the card already had first strike. It was, typically bigger than a dragon of the era and already had first strike. But this other ability is really strong. If there are other angels that you might want to play, giving them lifelink is whew. And
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, for instance, picture this card with Restoration Angel.
Ooh, I like that already. So that would make
or Mutavault.
4/5. Oh my gosh, Patrick. Mutavault.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Lyra Dawnbringer was born to kick it with Mutavault.
So she was born from the mana itself. But yeah, I mean, Resto Angel's like a 4/5 with this creature with lifelink. That's already one of the best cards you could play at that casting cost.
And if you're playing some sort of a Miracles deck, like for instance with Jace the Mind Sculptor to help set up your X spell, giving you a bunch of 4/4s, Lyra Dawnbringer loves to be the follow-up after that.
Sure. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, do you think that this card's good enough to play in Modern? I think it might be.
Yeah, of course, definitely. I mean, I think this card's better than Baneslayer Angel.
Better?
In Modern. Yeah, in Modern.
Because of Mutavault and Resto, huh?
The other angels you control ability is better than protection from demons and dragons, and being a legendary creature is slight upside, I think. It's not like it's that important to have 2 Baneslayer angels in play at the same time.
No, in fact,
And
you might
when you
get
have-
them Maelstrom Pulsed if you do that. It's
Yeah,
happened.
plus I would way rather have a Lyra Dawnbringer and a Baneslayer angel if it was really going to come to that. And then Lyra Dawnbringer being a legend might be a lot of upside depending on how much legend enabling there is in Dominaria. And so far it's looking like a fair bit.
Yeah, this is a very exciting card. There are, I think, some very exciting cards in green also.
Yeah? Which one do you got your eye on?
Well, there's one that just tugs at my heartstrings, and I'm like, aw, and I like it. And there's the other one I'm like, wow, this card's going to be legal for Standard, huh? So
are we talking about Gaia's Blessing and Llanowar Elves?
wow, you know me so well. Yes, and yes. So Gaia's Blessing, you're a good friend of mine. Brian Schneider once looked me in the eye, and he says, there's no reason you should need any other way to win than Gaia's Blessing. Totally serious. Gaia's Blessing is so cool. This card is 1 and a G for a sorcery. Target player, so that could be either you or your opponent, shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library, and then you draw a card, right? When Gaia's Blessing is put into your graveyard from your library, shuffle your graveyard into your library. So it was like an anti-millstone card, but also like it would allow you to exhaust your opponent like better than a Felden's Cane because it was also a cantrip, right? So you could just constantly be juicing up your library with counterspells and removal spells and card drawing spells while drawing extra cards. So not getting back lands, like not getting back, whether you had fetches or any other lands, like your spell concentration would get better and better. You would just exhaust your opponent with the outlook of decking them with the Gaia's Blessing. This was one of the favored ways to win from everyone from John Samuel Finkel to Bob Maher. Mm-hmm. In ages past. I don't know if you could still pull that off these days. The creatures are really good now, but...
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Gaia's Blessing's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's Llanowar Elves, though. I mean, this I think is heralding the return of Brian Kibler. Mark my words, Brian Kibler will be back. Like the Brian Kibler comeback, it was foretold.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can only win so many Pro Tours and Grand Prix and Hall of Fame berths and stuff, and Llanowar Elves, huh? Yeah, this card is incredibly powerful for Standard.
Yeah.
I don't know all the cards that are going to be legal when this hits, the streets again, but I have a hard time imagining it. It's literally the best card in Standard when Dominaria.
Yeah, that's not true. You can't possibly have a hard time imagining.
Oh, no. I'm imagining this is the
like
best
literally
card
the Scarab God is legal. I don't know. Actually, though,
Why
on the
would
note
Llanowar
of
Elves not be buddies with the Scarab God? Is there a good reason why they wouldn't be friends?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can play with Llanowar Elves besides ramping out 3-color, grindy, mid-range strategies. But I'm wondering what you think of the new Elf Enabler. Does this one have what it takes to spawn a new archetype? Marwyn, the Nurturer, 2 and a green for a 1/1. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Marwyn the Nurturer, and you can tap Marwyn to get an amount of green equal to Marwyn's power.
All right, so what's important about this, as I see it so far, it's another elf, not necessarily another non-token elf, right? So if you have some sort of mechanism that makes elf tokens, some sort of card advantageous thing, this is still going to buff Marwyn. Marwyn is a terrible casting cost for a lot of archetypes, but if you've got Llanowar Elves in the format, he's something that you can pop out on turn 2 with decent regularity, and then start growing him. I don't know, he might be 3/3 or bigger on turn 3 if you've got him on turn 2. Because I think in another other archetype he would be way too small at 3 for legitimate play, but you're just going to get that little bit of a jump because Llanowar Elves is in the format. I don't know how often I would be tapping him for an enormous amount of mana, but probably sometimes. I think that I don't know. I'm not super excited by this card, but I think it probably has some possibilities.
Yeah, I don't know. Possibilities, but I'm not super optimistic on it. We'll see. It's just so fragile, and it seems a little slow.
Well, here's the thing. Your great draws, you didn't need them for the payoff, right? You've got like an explosive amount of elves, you might be able to do something else other than Marwyn. But your draws that are not like linearly synergistic, he stinks. Or like if you top deck him super late, he stinks. But I do think he's kind of safe at 3, just because they gave us Land of War Elves back. So, there's an asterisk special case here.
So what do you think of the new? Well, we'll see. We'll see if this guy's right up your alley. 2/2 haste for 1. I mean, that's traditionally been your formula. Get 2 Lava Runner. He's a human wizard, red for a 1/2, and as long as there are 2 or more instant and/or sorcery cards in your graveyard, get 2 Lava Runner has +1/+0 in haste.
This card's pretty interesting. So he's just a 1/2 for R on turn 1, right? So I mean,
usually,
yeah, like barring some kind of gut shot sort of setup, Gitaxian something. He's just going to be a 1/2. Obviously, being 2/2 for haste later in the game might be pretty good. But I think he doesn't
later in the game, turn 2, right?
No, I'm just saying like
if you just lava spike him on turn 1, on turn 2 you can bolt him, and then hit for 2 with your Lava Runner.
Well, I'm just thinking the explosive value of a Goblin Guide is that you play him so often on turn 1 as a 2/2 haste. And Monastery Swiftspear, which is kind of size comparable to get 2 Lava Runner at the baseline, is good because, she has a snowball effect capability, either with multiples of her, or if, you've crafted a turn where you have a bunch of Rift Bolts coming off, or you're going to play a bunch of one-casters. He has neither of those things going on. Do I think he's playable? Probably he's playable. I don't think he's... My guess right now is
you need a wizard. You need a wizard in order to power up this lightning bolt, right?
Yeah, but I still don't think he cracks rotation. I don't think he makes it into Modern.
Okay.
I think he might get played in Standard. If the I don't know how in terms of cheap guys how pirate devoted you might be if you were a super low to the ground red deck. But I think this guy could see some Standard play if the cards change in terms of the spell mix. But I current assessment does not crack the rotation in Modern.
So you've always been a fan of the Fireball types, whether it's Blaze, Fireball, Demon Fire, any of that stuff.
Oh yes, I mean all of them. We had just Blaze with Urza's lands. PS Demon Fire you, Bane Fire you. I mean, I've invoked Fire Mines, anything with an X.
So Jaya's Immolating Inferno is X red for a legendary sorcery, so you can only cast it if you have a legendary creature or a legendary planeswalker. So
there better be some kind of path then.
Jaya's Immolating Inferno deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets.
Wow.
So it's like a Fireball for 1 mana more. You get 2 more Fireballs of full size for free. But you have to pay that 1.
Yeah, but you can't send them all to the opponent. That's yeah, this card seems really good.
You can do 4 to a planeswalker and 4 to a different planeswalker now, which is something you wouldn't have been able to do with the old redirection rules.
One of the things I just like about this card out of the gate is obviously this isn't like a red beatdown card, right? People don't typically Blaze in red beatdown decks.
Right.
But the kind of decks that might play this might have been the kind of decks that played Blaze or, Demon Fire or something in the past, or Invoke the Fire Mine in the past, which those guys always had like a Ryusei in play, right? Or a Kiga or a Moloku, something like that. So oftentimes you're gonna have some sort of legendary creature or, big. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a Tron deck. Like, Tron decks play Planeswalkers. They play lots of Planeswalkers. Maybe there's a payoff for a red Tron deck then. Like, this seems like a great way to spend a ton of extra mana.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a bigger impact on Standard than Modern. But, I just think that in Modern, you're not going to be in enough situations where there's 3 targets worth hitting. But it's, it might be that, the price is right. But I don't think Comet Storm has sniffed, even the periphery of Tron decks yet. And this one might be better, but I don't know that it's enough better to want to bridge the gap for Modern specifically. But I do think it's a very exciting card for Standard. And it's a pretty good Mondo combo with Jaya Ballard, the infamous Planeswalker from flavor texts of years gone by. So Jaya Ballard is 2 red, so the Kiki-Jiki cost for a Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. 3 abilities. The first ability is get red, that you can only spend on instants or sorceries. So a little bit different than Chandra's mana ability. You get a full 3 red while you're plussing, but you can only spend it on instants and sorceries.
It's a net cost of 2, though. Like, you basically, pay 5, get 3 of them back, so you're down 2, and then you can use that 3 to do something else interesting while building loyalty. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and going up to 6 loyalty is no joke. The second ability is also a +1. Discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. So that's a pretty aggressive amount of digging, right?
Yep. So,
and then, go ahead.
Well, yeah, so these are both plus abilities.
Right. And they're both ticking you towards the ultimate, which is only a -8. Starts at 5. You got to tick up 3 times. And then you can do -8. You get an emblem with you may cast instant and sorcery cards from your graveyard from now on. And if a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So not only is it just Yawgmoth's Will for instants and sorceries, you just have Past in Flames all of the time, but you can get more sorceries and instants into your graveyard. This isn't like Yawgmoth's Will where new cards are being exiled. The only ones getting exiled are the ones that you're playing out of your graveyard.
Wait,
so if you cast a Ponder and a Preordain, they go to the graveyard. It's just that when you flash them back, they'll be exiled. If you draw more cantrips, then you just keep going.
It's like a really, really powerful ability. Like, a Yawgmoth's Agenda costs 5, right? Just cost 5.
Right.
And then you just get this ability, but with a horrible condition attached to it, right? Because the
Arcane Lab you can never get out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a lot like Past in Flames, but it's just permanent.
I'm actually
Past in Flames is every format, like showing up in Modern, Legacy, Vintage, all that.
I'm real interested to see how this goes, because the first 2 abilities are very close to like kind of variations on cheaper Chandras, right? Like, there's the RR ability, and there's on the 6 casting cost Chandra has like discard and draw. So those 2 abilities we've kind of seen before, and I'm like, oh, is this exciting? Is this worth 5 mana? I think this is gonna be a cool card. I think this might be a cool sideboard card even, right? Like, be a Storm deck, just ritual this out on turn 2 and then play a grinder game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just like, all right, I'm not going to try to go off. I'm actually just going to get Jaya Ballard in play. Like, let's just play Magic. Let's play Magic for the next 4 turns. See how that goes for you. Like, that's a completely different dimension than how the Storm decks play right now, right? Instead of jamming all their spells in your face in 1 turn, like, I'm just going to accumulate resources. What do you think? Right? If they get that -8 off, I mean, they're going to be unstoppable. and they're fixing their hand at the same time.
Yep. Well, speaking of unstoppable, this card to me has Michael J. written all over it. Varix Bladewing, a.k.a. the new Broodmate Dragon. It's 2 red for a 4/4 legendary dragon that it's a 4/4 flyer, and it has kicker 3, which would be 7 if you do the whole thing. And when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you create another legendary 4/4 red dragon, slightly different name. So you'll have a Karox Bladewing and a Varix Bladewing. So you'll have 2 different 4/4 flying dragon legends.
Oh wow!
So it's either a 4/4 flyer for 4, or it's a Broodmate Dragon for 7.
So only one more than Broodmate Dragon cost, right? Which was
and much easier on the colors.
Yep. Obviously Broodmate Dragon was a card both of us loved when it was legal and standard in the past. I went out of my way to play that card as much as I could. So slightly worse than that, but in return you just get a 4/4 for 4 with no drawback, right? And also it's a Bladewing, right? So obviously this is an echo to Rorik's Bladewing, the legendary 6/5 haster. This card seems awesome to me. This card seems awesome. It's like a great top end in a beatdown deck, and then like it's a great way to sink your mana in a mana flooded situation for a beatdown deck. It's a great payoff card for a big mana deck. I don't mind casting this on turn 3 with the Llanowar Elf that was spoiled a few minutes ago. This card seems fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see the quality of mid-range powerful red threats. Like we already saw Jalia Ballard and Varix Bladewing. A couple really interesting, eyebrow-raising reprints. Skizix and Siege Gang Commander both reprinted. So Skizix is from Invasion Block, obviously, as you know.
Jump to Skizix,
please.
Which is an awesome card also, actually. But before we jump there, how do you think this is going to compete with the Owl, right? With the Rekindling... Like, right now, Rekindling Phoenix and Glorybringer, between the two of them, have got, like... There's a lot of competition, I think, for 4X flyers at the 4+ casting cost in red.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how the rest of the format shakes out. But at the moment, Varix Bladewing, it's kind of interesting. Varix Bladewing being a dragon means that Glorybringer's ability can't shoot it.
Oh, cool.
And the kicker, having a kicker instead of a enters the battlefield ability means that opposing the Scarab Gods aren't going to be able to steal the token-making ability.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean.
So yeah, I don't know. It's got flexibility. Yep, it's got flexibility. I think it's going to end up coming down to how much do you value it being a legend, and how much do you value it being a 4/4 base instead of a 4/3. Because I think Rekindling Phoenix is a slightly more attractive, just everything being equal. But I think Varix Bladewing has there's a lot to like in a lot of ways that the flexibility can end up being more reliable than the Phoenix. The Phoenix has high ceiling, but the floor can definitely be lower.
Yeah. All right. Skizix, speaking of forecasting cost big threats. So 3 and an R for a 5/3 trample and haste. Sacrifice it at end of turn unless you pay the kicker of R. So it's either
right. So for 4 mana, right, for 4 you get the 5/3 trample haste for 1 time, 1 attack, and for 5 you just get a 5/3 trample haste.
Yeah, this card was phenomenal in its era. I want to say that this card was in like 5 of the decks in the top 8 of Pro Tour Tokyo. In the like 4 red-green decks and like a red-black deck maybe. It hits very hard, and it gives you some good lasting power on the 5. I think The interesting skill test on Skizix is, when you're going to just pull the trigger on the 4 versus trying to be patient to keep the threat around. But yeah, it's like a hasty juggernaut for the same casting cost. And sometimes it's a hasty juggernaut that you keep around.
It's kind of nice going after other people's Chandras.
Oh yeah, like I think that especially in a world with so many planeswalkers that are going to be good, just having another card that can just go straight after them, sometimes stick around. That's like a card advantageous play, right? Like that's not unlike just like having a Glorybringer come down and exert to chomp somebody and keep your big threat.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that, like, there's a lot of times where you end up in these spots where Glorybringer is attacking a 5 loyalty Chandra, and knowing that the Chandra is going to live and is going to require another attack next turn, right? But Skizix would just kill it outright. It's definitely much easier to interact with a Skizix at times, but that extra point can be very high leverage against Planeswalkers particularly. There's another big red threat, Siege Gang Commander, another all-time great. Siege Gang Commander, 3 red for a 2/2 goblin that when it enters the battlefield, you get 3 1/1 red goblin tokens, and you can pay 1 in a red and sacrifice a goblin to have Siege Gang Commander deal 2 damage to any target.
Yeah, this card's super powerful. First of all, it's, 5 power over 4 bodies for 5 mana. And then it's not just the goblins that Siege Gang Commander creates. It's any goblin. It's Siege Gang Commander itself. It's any goblin you might have had lying around elsewhere. It could be goblins that have their own leaves the battlefield abilities. You just get your opponent to a spot where they only have so much life and they can't lock you out from blocking or anything. You just direct damage them out.
Yes. And it's definitely one of those cards that it can completely take over a game if unchecked. But even if they kill it, you are usually going to be turning a profit anyway. And
the other thing is, depending on your draw, like one of the other cards that was reprinted in Dominaria is Goblin Warchief, right? So Goblin Warchief is a 2/2 goblin for 3 mana for 1 RR. It has 2 abilities. One of them is goblins you control have haste, so the Warchief itself has haste. And then goblin spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So you can play Warchief on turn 3, get in for 2, and then turn 4 for only 4 mana instead of 5 because the Goblin Warchief's costing reduction ability. You can play Siege Gang Commander and get incremental 5 power and then be swinging for 7 on turn 4 with all those bodies. 7 plus 2 is already half of the opponent's life total, and you're going to have more than enough fuel probably to finish them off if you have anything.
So it would seem that they're definitely pushing these mid-range, big, hard-hitting bangers. Curious your thoughts on the green ones. In particular, the Steel Leaf Champion and Territorial Allosaurus. So Steel Leaf Champion is GGG for a 5/4 elf knight, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less.
So this card is like, I don't know, is this better than Woolly Thoktar? Woolly Thoktar was a card, which was for Naya color. So also 3 colored pips, right? 3 total mana, but also three colored pips. That was played in the Naya Lightsaber deck that Andre Coimbra used to win Worlds in 2009. So for a 5/4, and he didn't have the Steel Leaf Champions can't be blocked by Little Guy's ability.
And the Little Guy's ability is actually kind of nice for stopping tokens.
Yep.
Like you don't want to have your Woolly Thoktar be chump blocked by a Siege Gang Commander token, or gang blocked for that matter.
Yeah, so there's precedent for a card like this, to be a key contributor in, in super high performing deck, and this requires 2 fewer colors. I, in fact, think that Steel Leaf Champion is going to benefit from being friends with Llanowar Elves. Llanowar Elves
definitely
comes down on turn 1, taps for G. So if you have a couple of forests, you can have a 5/4 with not only no drawbacks, but actually some upside on turn 2. Could be hard to beat for some opponents.
And for and being an elf, Knight's got a little bit of upside too. But being an elf, I think this card's going to show up in Modern. Think about how much the elf deck has become a beat-down backup plan deck, right? If you have Steel Leaf Champion alongside all of your, whether it's Vryn's Run Vanquisher or the 2/2 that makes a 1/1, or just playing Azuri or Elvish Archdruid, Steel Leaf Champion seems like it could be a nice collected company hit.
Oh, yeah. That seems awesome. It's just the correct casting cost for that.
Then the other one we had mentioned, Territorial Allosaurus, is a dinosaur. Pretty sick new dinosaur. This one's 2 GG for a 5/5 that has kicker of 2 and a green. And if you kick it, it fights another creature when it enters the battlefield.
So it doesn't fight another creature that your opponent controls. So it might fight one of your creatures. You might get.
Well, you don't have to kick it.
Yeah, but it's your choice to kick it. So it's not probably going to be a downside very often. It's 5/5.
Yeah. I don't think I wouldn't worry about the downside part too much.
It could happen, right? I'm just saying it could happen. Probably not going to happen very often. But 5/5 for 4. Okay.
The fight your own guy is actually upside because of all the dinosaurs that have abilities that trigger when they get damaged.
Yep. I mean, provided they both live. I think that's make sure that happens. And then, it's pretty good body. But, for 7, it's going to come down and, basically Necrotol somebody, which is it's pretty cool. I think that this card it's solid. I don't know. It depends on how dinosaur.
A lot of hesitation in your voice.
I mean, 7 to deal 5 is kind of a lot. I mean, it's. I'll tell you this. I'm way less excited about this card than I am about the new Bladewing, right? Which is a similarly costed creature. You think this is on the order of the Bladewing, or do you think the Bladewing is much better?
I mean, they're at least comparable.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bladewing, there's a lot of other good options for that kind of effect. Whereas, Dinosaurs is hungry.
Yeah.
They need it. They appreciate it. They could use the power.
I mean, the Bladewing is like when Larry Nance Jr. came to the Cavs and put on number 22 this year. I just...
Dude, how did that... Myself. Speaking of that, dear Lord, his father has awakened in him.
He's playing... I mean, he's playing unbelievable. He's just like...
Oh, yeah.
One of the best players in the league all of a sudden. So, we'll see.
Substantially above expectation.
Yeah, so... Yep, that was. But that's how I feel about the Bladewing, right? I've had Rorix in front of me so many times, and I like and I love Broodmate Dragon also, right? So I like all the stuff going on there. Territorial Allosaurus, a 5/5 for 4 on the ground. It doesn't have any evasive ability. It doesn't have any way to protect itself. It's not hasty. It's not flying. Would you play that card? Sometimes, but the format has to give you a very good reason to do so. And then, the upside ability is cool, but 7 is a lot. That's all. It's a lot. This can't, reliably take out the Scarab God or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how good just a 4-mana 5/5 dinosaur is. Who knows? Maybe that's good enough. So here's a very unusual one. Oath of Teferi. Oath of Teferi is 3 white-blue for a legendary enchantment. And when Oath of Teferi enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent you control and return that permanent to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you get to blink something, and then you may
this
activate...
This would be net cost 2, right? I'm sorry, net cost 4, right? So you can tap out for it.
Sort of.
Blink a land and then get a land back.
You won't get the land back until the end step, though, so you could have it open for your opponent's turn if you wanted.
Yeah, what if you've got like an island and a spell pierce, sake of argument?
Right. You could do that. It has a second ability, though, which is you may activate the loyalty ability of planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only once.
Wow, is that insanely powerful? Like, that means that you would be leveling up their loyalty twice also?
Yep. If you are using a plus ability.
Yeah, that's some oomph. And this is not an easy card to remove. People don't have a lot of legendary enchantment removal cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild, right? Like, you can also use it just to get your planeswalker to ultimate a turn ahead of schedule, right? Like, if you drop a planeswalker that ticks up and your opponent's like, okay, well, it's going to go ultimate in 2 turns, you could drop Oath of Teferi and suddenly hit him with the ultimate out of nowhere.
I mean, you could... I'm just imagining you've got a planeswalker use a minus ability, right? Play Oath of Teferi, and then you can blink the planeswalker itself, right? Then use his ability twice.
But no, because the planeswalker won't come back until your end step.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Or you can't do that.
But you could boink other things like, for instance, Oath of Nissa, Oath of Chandra, Oath of Liliana. If you boink an Oath of Liliana, you'll edict them again.
Yep.
So lots of cool stuff. The biggest thing, though, being just being able to use your planeswalkers twice. Like, for instance, what about just Nissa 5?
Well,
You know? Like, if you have an Oath of Teferi in play, you can just drop Nissa, plus her, and then ultimate the turn you played her.
yeah, that's really strong. I mean, yeah. I think this card is really, really powerful. The only question I have about it is, we are talking about playing a 5 casting cost enchantment, right, that doesn't particularly impact the battlefield. Like, if you've got... I'm sure you've got, like, some kind of, I don't know, cast out or something already in play. Maybe that gives you some defensive capability, but this is a real shields down scenario to be in.
Yeah, there's definitely some risk associated with this one. What do you think, actually, on the topic of risk, what do you think of how risky is it to try dropping a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, Teferi himself? Teferi in Planeswalker form is 3 white-blue for a Planeswalker with 4 loyalty, +1 to draw a card at the beginning of the next end step, untap 2 land. And then his -3 is put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. And then finally, -8, you get an emblem of whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent an opponent controls.
So, a lot to parse here.
So if you start by just dropping it and using it like Jace, like instead of 5 cost, draw a card and scry 1, this is draw a card and untap 2 land.
That's very powerful.
That's very good, right? Like, that's a better ability.
Yeah, because
then
you could draw a removal spell and then have the ability to cast it even if you tapped out for Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
And then the -3 ability is put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So that is a lot better than bouncing.
Yeah, it's a very good defensive ability. So
You can.
one of the rules people often use to evaluate Planeswalkers is, can it defend itself? This one certainly can.
And then the ultimate, -8, whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent an opponent controls. That's pretty game winning.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's not a for sure lock, but man, are you going to take over the game very quickly in a near unstoppable fashion.
I mean, Teferi and Oath of Teferi seem like extraordinarily synergistic with one another. The ability to do the card drawing +1 twice. You're like, oh, the Teferi, and they're like, all right, Teferi, do this, you can untap 2 lands twice, so you have 4 untapped lands, and you've got 2 fresh cards. That's really strong while building loyalty. And then it's very good with the -8 also, because if you've got like some kind of jazz where you've built your loyalty at an exceptional pace, and you're like, all right, -8 and +1 in a single turn, that's trouble for the opponent.
Yeah, I think this Teferi is I think this Teferi is the real deal. This is just such a powerful way to take over the game. So flexible of options to help defend yourself if you need to. Such a reliable way to close things out when you have an advantage, but just the ability to draw the cards. And I think you're right. It is a pretty good combo with Teferi, Oath of Teferi. I'm not sure how much Oath of Teferi action. It's hard to to play too many 5s, but I think this Teferi himself is the real deal.
Just speaking about playing too many 5s, Oath of Teferi, Teferi itself, those are permanents that you would love to have in play when you're casting Urza's Ruinous Blast, right? Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, this is really pushing up against the limit of having a lot of 5s, but both of those cards and being kind of a one-way Wrath of God that leaves you with such powerful permanents that's some magic.
Here's somebody who's got a little bit of magic in him. Demon Lord Belzenlock. So the Demon Lord is a 4 BB for a 6/6 flying trample legend. And when Demon Lord Belzenlock enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. Then put that card into your hand. If the card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenlock deals 1 damage to you for each card put into your hand this way.
So to start with, he's a 6/6 flying trample for 6, which you got my attention. And then he's got a pretty absurdly powerful ability attached to him, right? He always draws a spell.
Right. And if it costs 4 or more, he does it again.
Yeah.
Like that's being able to repeat that. I mean, you can set up how your deck is built depending on how much tolerance you have for trying to get some real high roll spots. But I could imagine, it not being uncommon to get 2 or 3 cards off this guy, possibly more if you're like willing to go just like going ham, right?
But you don't.
I mean, you could go to an
extreme. You don't have to be crazy. You can play a bunch of high casting cost cards that never really bite you because they're cycling cards, right? So, that's a way to get high casting cost cards into your deck that don't actually impact your curve too much.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if this guy's more of a card to be played fair, where it's just like a bit of a Titan, just a 6/6 flying trample, draw card, sometimes more, versus how much is this something that people actually try to abuse in some way.
I think this makes an excellent looking Titan.
It's kind of...
6/6 for 6, great body, flying trample, and then just, give you even just 1 extra card. There are many, many types of strategies that would love to top in their curve this way.
Yeah. Now, there's a different 6 casting cost black card that we would be remiss if we didn't speak on. Lich's Mastery. 3 black, black, black. You can tell Richard Garfield worked on this set. 3 black, black, black. Lich's Mastery is a legendary enchantment with hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. And when Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game.
Wow, so I love this you can't lose the game part, and I think at the point of the game that you have the resources to get Lich's Mastery in play, you probably have some fodder for the downside ability. I don't know. I think this seems like a thing that people might have to deal with in Standard, right? It has hexproof. You can't easily remove it. I don't know. If they're just drawing cards and they have some reasonable way to defend themselves, whether it's permission or removal, mass removal, planeswalker defense, I don't know. How do you win?
Well, Lich's Mastery certainly isn't going to let you lose if you've got it on your side. But I think this card's fate is going to be kind of linked to what kind of enablers there are for it. What kind of life gain engines can we actually come up with to try to Yawgmoth's bargain our way through our deck? It would not surprise me at all if there ended up being some busted combo deck with this. But historically, the odds are against. Just, it's not. There's no way they wouldn't have tested it.
Well, imagine this card is just a Yawgmoth's Agenda, right? It's one more mana than a Yawgmoth's Agenda.
Everything's a Yawgmoth's Agenda to you.
I mean, today they're making a bunch of cards that are comparable to Yawgmoth's Agenda, right? But if all you've got is you have this and you just have a bunch of Renewed Faiths in your deck, for sake of argument, right? Renewed Faith's great early on too, but literally just gain 6. If you have Lich's Mastery in play, I think that is.
What does that have to do with Yawgmoth's Agenda?
When I say it's a Yawgmoth's Agenda, it's just like this brick permanent that you put into play that gives you an engine. Or that's what I mean.
Ah, okay.
So this, you're just like, here I go, gaining 6. I wonder if there's something in these next 6 cards that can keep me from losing my Lich's Mastery. Oh, wait, there was. Not going to be surprising.
Doesn't this card kind of remind you of Crumbling Necropolis a little?
Yes. I mean, the thing is, how good is this card with Fumigate? How good is this card with... I don't know. I'm at my
This card seems pretty crazy with Fumigate.
Yeah, and what about the Tri-land, right? The one that's black, blue, red, enters the
gain 1 life?
Yeah. That's cool.
Not that good.
Not that good?
Cool, yes. Yeah, I want to draw a bunch of cards if I'm going to be Lich's Mastering.
I mean, we've got Horse Tribal, we've got the new Baneslayer Angel. I think white-black. I hate to say mid-range because these are all top-end cards.
Dude, what about the cycling card where you drain your opponent for 2?
Yeah.
Every time you cycle, you can pay 1 to make your opponent take 2 damage and you gain 2 life.
Yes, I know this enchantment, but I don't know its name.
I got a feeling that we're going to have to try a lot of configurations of this Lich's Mastery business.
Is Rest in Peace legal somewhere?
Yeah, in Modern.
Okay. I was like, was this legal in Standard? Because that would be insanity. Rest in Peace Lich's Mastery? That's probably a little too fancy for Modern, though. Okay.
Why is that good?
Not Rest in Peace. The one that
Rest in Peace is good against it.
The one that's discard a land, gain 3 life.
Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind. Sorry. All the peace. That's not legal in Standard, is it?
Not yet. But they've reprinted it before, and they'll reprint it again.
All right, I got last one I want to talk about today. Karn, Scion of Urza.
Of course.
4 casting cost Karn. Right, so we've had some colorless. We've had some Karns. This one's 4. 5 loyalty. Interesting mathematics on that. And he's got some abilities. +1, reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them. Put that card into your hand and exile the other with a silver counter on it. -1, put a card you own with a silver counter on it from exile into your hand. -2, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Pretty cool Jame Day Tome ability on this guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just to start, he's Tome-tacular, right? So +1 ability, I think typically you're going to get the worst of the two cards, but you have access to the other one because of the -1 ability.
Right. Now your opponent's going to have a one-turn heads up that could be on the horizon. But for a colorless tome that doesn't require any mana to operate, that's pretty interesting. And then you can also just drop him and -2, still have plenty of loyalty. Just -2 and get a 0/0, get yourself an XX. Which it itself is an artifact creature, so it's helping.
It's always at least a 1/1 because of that, right? The first one is
right.
No matter what.
Now, is this finally the Planeswalker that Affinity has been looking for?
I hadn't even thought about it from that angle, but like the first
you get
-2
two Master of Etheriums of sorts.
Yeah, you get like a 5/5 like as soon as you play him if you want. You could get 2 because he's got 5 starting loyalty. You're committing your first 4 loyalty to that. You're like the next one's going to be even bigger, and then you still got your tome ability, which is not nothing. I mean, Affinity isn't real excited about tapping 4 lands to do anything. That's the only thing that I'm be reserved about.
This guy's interesting with like Thopters and servos and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think this guy. There's word decks in Standard, right? There's tons of stuff like Renegade maps and treasures.
Oh yeah,
right. Treasures.
If you have some kind of a Colossus deck, a Middlework Colossus deck, Karn is definitely going to mess some stuff up there, right?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about him do you think he could go in procession if you're processioning with him and some sort of treasure makers?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that the token ability works where you get 2 of it. So they're both buffing each other and they're all getting the benefit of all the artifacts that you were going to play anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, just imagine like doing whatever ability makes like the first treasure. You get 2 treasures, and now you're using the -2, and you're getting 2 0/0s in the first. Are they both 4/4 to start in this scenario, or was one 3/3 and the other one 4/4?
Well, they grow and shrink. So like they're both going to be the same size, right?
Oh, okay. It's constantly checking.
Yep.
Got it.
So you're not even locked in at the beginning.
Yeah, I think this card is pretty cool. I think like just the 5 casting cost for a Jame Day, or I'm sorry, 4 casting cost for a Jame Day tome, even if you never did anything else. Like it's so much better than cards that people have played in the past. It's just so much better. Right? Like nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just whenever you get a powerful colorless planeswalker, it has a real dangerous impact on the format because of how much anybody could just adopt this card.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see the fallout from. But this card seems sweet.
I just imagine the first time somebody's like, all right, tap 4 Karn +1, and they flip over Urza's Ruinous Blast and X, whatever the other card is.
Dude, this card is dope in Modern when you use Jace and you put back 2 things you don't want, and then you Karn, clear your cache.
Yeah. Control F5.
Yeah.
I think this card is very interesting, and we have not even scratched the surface of what we can talk about in Dominaria, but tons and tons of interesting stuff. However it came into our hands.
Yeah, I'm excited for this set. This set looks dope. This is a real promising start, and we haven't even spoken on any Moxes.
Oh well. Let that be a little teaser for some future statement.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and thanks for sharing us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and everything, YouTube, Patreon as well.
Yeah. So we just want to shout out to Matthias Pfeiffer this week.
Thanks, Matthias, and thank you everybody tuning in every week. It's really a pleasure to kick it with you guys.
Agreed. All right. Bye-bye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, it's a jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left